Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to show you how in .NET 8 Microsoft finally makes it possible for us to optimize for memory in one of the most common scenarios when dealing with collections. If you like that type of content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell, and for more training, check out nickchapsas.com. But before I move on, I'm extremely happy to announce that I just launched my brand new course from Zero to Hero REST APIs in .NET. It is the only course you need to learn how to build elegant REST APIs in .NET, and is effectively the combination of what I learned in the past 6 years of my career building REST APIs for millions of customers and some of the biggest companies in the world. It starts from the theory and the most basic features of REST APIs, and it goes into some of the most advanced ones, like building SDKs for your consumers to consume your REST API programmatically, and even contains a migration guide to move from controller-based APIs, which this course is using, into minimal APIs. To celebrate the launch, I'm offering the first 200 of you a 15% discount code, so if you want to do what thousands of you have done already, check that link in the description and apply discount code REST15 for that discount. Now back to the video. Alright, let me show you what I have here and what I mean by that. So I have a simple console application, doesn't really have anything here, but I have this user service class, and this one has a record of a type user and then a user service with a single method get users. Now this one is sort of a pseudocode version of what you might have in your code. And the idea is that in many methods on your projects that return some form of collection, whether that's a list, a collection, an enumerable, an array, anything, you might have some form of validation or some call to a database or something in general before you eventually return that collection with the data in it. And if validation fails, or if the call to database returns nothing, or even if it fails, what are you going to return here? Many people choose to do, if validation fails, return null. However, in my opinion, this is very much a bad practice, because this can lead to null reference exceptions being thrown to people consuming that method later. So you have to have if checks everywhere. However, what's the most likely thing you're going to do with a collection like this? You're going to use link to maybe select or filter or do something like that, or iterate. So you will actually write safer code if you just return an empty collection here. So do something like this. New list of user. However, this can also be very problematic, and people who defend returning null say that if you do this, you're going to return an empty list, which will still allocate memory every time, because there is no single empty list you can return in the form of a singleton, so you're going to be allocating memory every single time you're returning it. Now, some types have already solved this problem. For example, if I go ahead and I change this to enumerable of type user, then you could say enumerable.empty type user, and that will return the same empty instance of that enumerable every single time. And if this was an array, then you could also say array.empty and pass down the user type, and then this will be the same thing. It's not going to allocate any memory. It's the same cast array type every single time. However, for read-only collections, read-only lists, and also a very common scenario, read-only dictionaries, we do not have that. Until now. Finally, in .NET 8, Microsoft adds ways to deal with this. Now, this project is currently .NET 7, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to use the latest alpha of .NET 8 and also do it here in the CS project. Here we go. And now we can use those new methods. Let's go to program.cs and see what those methods are. So as we saw already before, in a scenario like this, you'd have to return a new list of type user. However, now all you need to say is read-only collection.empty. And that is it. That is going to be the exact same instance of the empty collection every single time, preventing you from allocating that extra memory every time you invoke it. This is now the same for read-only collection. So if I had that, then this is exactly the same. Oh, and for those of you using the observable collections, then those also got the exact same single empty instance treatment. So if you're using those types, read-only observable collection.empty is what you want to use. But the biggest one for me, the one I'm going to use by far the most, is the dictionary. So if you have an dictionary of type int or user to get the users, then previously you'd have to say new dictionary like this. But now all you need to do is say read-only dictionary.empty, and that is it. It's going to return the same empty dictionary. Now, what does that mean in terms of performance for your code? Well, let's add some benchmarks and see how much memory now we're going to save every time by using this approach. Of course, I'm going to use benchmark.net to add my benchmarks. Let's go ahead and just add the NuGet package. And I'm going to bring in this benchmark.cs class. Now we're using a memory diagnoser because we want to know how much memory we allocate. And these are the three main things we're testing for. So readonly list, which by the way can also be iList. The reason why I don't like returning iList when I'm returning a read-only list is because it doesn't communicate intent. This is supposed to be something you are consuming and you're not just adding back into. Because just to quickly show you, if this was an iList over here of type user and I returned read-only collection empty, then if I try to add a new user, I still have the method because iList has the method. But if I tried to run this, then as you're going to see over here, I'm going to get an exception because the backing type is read only. So even though this is iList, this does not communicate intent. You want to go read-only list, and then you're going to get the compilation error because you truly can't use that. And by the way, if you want a video explaining when to use each type, leave a comment down below, let me know, and I'll be happy to make that. So read-only list here, and I'm going to compare that to returning a new list of capacity 0. Then I also check the read-only collection, which is a different interface, and I'm returning read-only collection or new collection of user, which is what you might do if you're returning a collection. And then the read-only dictionary, which again, I can use dictionary here, but if I do that, I don't communicate to the user, the consuming user, that you're not supposed to add things here. This is just read only for your consumption. So now with all of these things over here, I'm going to go to the program.cs. I'm going to say return at the top and benchmark runner.run. And I'm going to pass down the benchmarks type. And I'm going to quickly change this to release mode and run and see how all the benchmarks compare. All right, so results are back and let's see what we have here. So let's go pair by pair. So read-only list, new, 0.6 nanoseconds, and then the old version, 4.1, which is fine, but 32 bytes of memory for an empty collection that you're wasting every time the thing doesn't return any data. Same with the collection, 0.6, but 7.8, even slower if you do new collection in your code, and even more memory. And then the dictionary, 0.6, so obviously all of them are equally blazing fast, and 6.8 and 80 bytes for nothing. So this was the biggest counter argument to people saying, don't return empty list or empty collection or empty whatever, just return null, you're gonna save memory. And in .NET 8, that will no longer be true. So when that is out, keep an eye out for that and start using it into your code. It is going to lead to better code, returning an empty collection that now it's cached, so it's even more performant compared to just returning null. And in my opinion, and that's just how I do things, even with the memory allocated, I'm still returning a new empty list or a new empty dictionary because it will lead to better and safer code. One person forgets to add a null check and the whole thing blows up. So that's my advice to you on this subject. But what do you think? Do you prefer returning null for empty collections or just a new empty collection? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Well, that's all I had for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to my Patreons for making this possible. If you want to support me as well, you're going to find the link in the description down below. Leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you like this, ring the bell as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep coding.